Today I want to walk you quickly through an incident response use case utilizing ThreatQ by ThreatQuotient. First off, what is incident response? Incident response is an organized approach to the process by which an organization handles the aftermath of a cyber attack or data breach with the goal of limiting damage and reducing recovery time and cost. But ThreatQ looks to integrate bidirectionally with as many products as we possibly can. In particular importance is the incident response or ticketing processes that are out there today. We work with a multitude of different IR or incident response tools, but in particular today we'll be reviewing Resilient. As the IR user or as the incident response analyst responsible for this particular event or incident that has occurred, I have information that's been given to me within the system. I have data around the summary information of what was going on within the ticket, but also anything that has a red notification beside it means that there is additional context that has been made available to me by ThreatQuotient. If I move into that, I can look at that information and see specific pieces of metadata or context that dramatically help me with my reduce the time to my decision on whether or not this is a false positive or something that needs to be further investigated. In this case, quickly looking at the data, I can see that it is been scored very highly based upon the personalized scoring that's been put in place for my organization, along with the fact that it is a remote access Trojan, and I have information from one of my paid feeds around this as well. All signs point towards this is something that we need to dig into quickly to determine what steps we need to take to accurately and quickly remediate this problem. The first thing that we can do is either go directly into additional details if we want from within the system here by simply clicking on the link to take me into the ThreatQ system, or we would go through and say we're going to actually create a new investigation around this particular piece. In this case, we would go through and create what status do we want to have applied to this one and the priority of this. And more importantly, as we'll see later, the visibility of this, whether it should be a private investigation or a shared investigation. As we move into the investigation itself, we see that we've started from this left-hand side. I've brought in the Resilient ticket that I've been looking at, along with a direct link back to the Resilient view, so if I want to go back to that working view. Within the system, I've been able to go through and see what other indicators have been linked to that Resilient ticket, which we have here, and I've already opened all 4 of those within my investigation. In this case, focusing in on the score 10 of the africawebcast.com. I've also been able to look at the context of that indicator and any of the metadata or information that we've gathered around attributes, associated adversaries, evidence-based files, other events that have occurred within the system, or indicators that have been related specifically to that. In this case, I've opened up a couple other ones because they were part of the original ticket. As I look through my attributes and look through my other pieces of information, I have risk scores, I have malware C2, I have all the different pieces of information that cause this indicator to be scored as the 10 within the system. As I also start looking through this, I see that I have a Splunk sighting timestamp along with a Splunk event that occurred as well. So I have not only affirmation that I got the ticket within my one system, but I've also now rotated over to a different team, in this case the SOC team, to be able to go back and see what was going on within the SIM and be able to get additional details from that around what other pieces of information or attributes were seen at that same point in time when this first sighting or when this sighting actually occurred. I also have the ability to go gather additional information or do enrichment or nurturing from this point in time to where I can run additional operations against this, whether it's to go through and run get more data from VirusTotal, whether it's to go communicate with the SIM, in this case Splunk, to see if I've seen any other activity around this particular domain, or other options that I've got within the system. Multitudes of integration options that are available from within ThreatQ, internally and externally. As I move through this, obviously saying that this is something we want to be looking into, I notice that as I saw, I have the file that's been attached to this. In this case, I've also gone through and assigned in an event, or in this case, a task that needs to occur. Assigned this to Christian Galador, who's a member of my threat intel team, and asked him to dig through this document to find any other tactics or techniques that may be necessary for this particular scenario. Also within that, we've linked directly to the file, so he knows where to go and where to start reading, and to add any of those relationships for other information that's found within the system. As this event requires associated to the ghost rat, I've gone through and actually brought in the ghost rat malware, or the ghost malware within the system. I have malware IDs, I've got external references to other evidence, in this case going to a FireEye blog affiliated to that. I've also been able to go through and bring in additional information around attack patterns, talking to MITRE ATT&CK to determine, in this case, the MITRE Ghost actually utilizes some Run32 DLL capabilities for removing or changing things out. I also have a MITRE reference. This MITRE reference allowed me to go directly into the MITRE page to start gathering additional information, which is also what led me very quickly down to a CVE associated to the ghost malware. In looking at that piece of information, I've gone through and sure enough, I have that CVE existent within my system, along with adversaries, additional files, other indicators that are affiliated to that one, along with the ability to be able to run operations against that, being able to query my vulnerability tools and other systems to see, are we patched or are we still vulnerable to this slightly older exploit that's out there. Just to be doubly safe, I've gone through and assigned another task within the system, in this case going out to Chris Jacob, where I've asked him to verify that the patches are in place, along with the specific machines internally that I need him to go look at to verify. This gives me the ability to not only determine where I'm at in the process of trying to investigate, mitigate, and then respond to this particular activity, but also to determine how well my team is interacting together. In this use case, we've gone through and discussed the ability to use ThreatQuotient's ThreatQ, and in particular our investigations capability from a team-focused perspective, looking at security as an overall team, but specifically looking at incident response-led capabilities. The goal out of utilizing ThreatQ and investigations within IR and other use cases, and specifically the goal in utilizing ThreatQ for IR and the capabilities of the organizational memory and the threat library, along with the open exchange and tasking capabilities, allows us to provide better analysis across all the teams that are involved within a security investigation, allowing faster response time and quicker time to resolution across the board. By doing so, allowing more incidents to be completed in a quicker and more accurate manner. Allowing those incident response resolutions utilizing past learnings or past information to help move incident response faster. Better team collaboration and productivity, an increased new hire time to value, meaning that new hires are able to move up to speed or get up to speed much more quickly due to their ability to reference past decisions and past learnings. And finally, allowing faster and more complete understanding in orchestrating a coordinated response to the multitude of security activities that must be handled across an entire security team.